agenda is welcome speech, which will be delivered by the Honorable Dean of Faculty of Political and Social Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Adi Setiabudi Susilo, MSc. Please give a big round of applause.
Thank you, the Master Ceremony, Christella Pedisanti. Before I start my speech, let me introduce our Master Ceremony, Christella Pedisanti. She is student at Department of International Relations. 2 weeks ago, was elected as a model student of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. And just last Friday, was elected as the first runner-up of Universitas Indonesia Model Student. Big applause to Christella Pedisanti. We are proud of you. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Auditorium Yono Sudarsono. Professor Yono Sudarsono, the picture is over there, is former Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences and the first Head of Department of International Relations, and serving many positions as in Ministerial Cabinet, Minister of Environment, Minister of Education and Culture, and also 2 times as a Minister of National Defense. So Professor Yono Sudarsono is our champion for study of international relations in Universitas Indonesia. Thank you very much for all of you, especially to our honorable guests. We have many honorable guests. Excellency Ambassador Ospon Singa Subana, may I invite you to stand up so everybody can know you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Chair of ASEAN CPR Permanent Representative of Thailand to ASEAN. Excellency Ambassador Kasmalati Dato Kasim, Permanent Representative of Brunei to ASEAN. Excellency Ambassador Yip Samnang, Permanent Representative of Cambodia to ASEAN. Thank you. Excellency Ambassador Ade Patmo Sarwono, Permanent Representative of the Republic of ASEAN. Pak Ade is also alumni of this school. He is my classmate. Lau PDR, Excellency Ambassador Eka Pap Pantafong, Permanent Representative of Lau PDR to ASEAN. Excellency Ambassador Dato Sarifa Nurhana Syed Mustafa, Permanent Representative of Malaysia to ASEAN. Excellency Ambassador Min Lui, Permanent Representative of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar to ASEAN. Excellency Ambassador Alice Elizabeth Gwen Suseso, Permanent Representative of Republic of Philippines to ASEAN. I'm waiting you to sing Dahil Sayu. I love that song. Oh, yes, I will. Excellency Ambassador Kong Lik Peng, Permanent Representative of Singapore to ASEAN. Ambassador Tren Duc Bin, Permanent Representative of Vietnam to ASEAN. And Mr. Lim Chui Chin, Director ASEAN Connectivity Division, ASEAN Secretariat. My colleagues from Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Vice Dean Professor Dodi, Head of Department, lecturer, student from Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. And also, I think we have many friends from another institution, both from university, another university, and also media. Welcome to our campus, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. Good afternoon. Welcome to Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, and to this CPR lecture series. It is tremendous honor and great pleasure for me to host 10 ASEAN Committee of Permanent Representative CPR and Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, and to host the first ASEAN CPR lecture series in Indonesia and the second one in the region. In addition to the presence of our honorary ambassador guest, the program of CPR lecture series on the 10th anniversary of engaging ASEAN through CPR, Thailand Chairmanship 2019. This afternoon is indeed important in many ways. The first is, it is a celebration of friendly cooperation among ASEAN countries that grow deeper and wide. The second, a golden opportunities for CPR to reach out to public and not only to expose their achievement in facilitating cooperation among ASEAN countries, but also to gather genuine interest and concern from academic community on ASEAN. And the third, a rare opportunity for students and scholars to communicate and interact directly with ASEAN high officials and decision makers. In short, this lecture series is an essential step to create sense of ASEANers among young generation, a vital ingredient of ASEAN community. For us at university, this CPR lecture series is also an important observation in studying ASEAN. It is a primary source of data to comprehend ASEAN contemporary opportunities and challenges. In this time when this institution has to prove its relevance to countries and people in Southeast Asia, aim competitive global politics and economy, as well as pressing regional dynamics. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I congratulate Thailand, the chair of ASEAN this year. We welcome initiatives that will be explained shortly by Ambassador Paspon Sangat-Ubana. Thailand has been a keen supporter of ASEAN community and has contributed tremendously in the development of this regional institution. We believe that Thailand chairmanship will enhance ASEAN to develop stronger and benefit its people. In addition, let me congratulate the ASEAN CPR for their 10th anniversary that reflects their commitment and hard work to further integration among ASEAN countries in order to create peace, stability, and prosperity in our region. Our decade after its establishment through this lecture series, ASEAN CPR show us a friendly and solid team that manages ASEAN cooperation, our regional affairs at daily basis. We wish that the ASEAN CPR continue to be important driver for ASEAN integration and useful bridge among ASEAN people. We also hope that the ASEAN CPR keep close relations with academic community. The CPR lecture series today has attracted a high-level enthusiasm as more than 150 audiences registered for this program, consisting of scholars and students not only from Universitas Indonesia but also from another universities. Given these circumstances, I would like to suggest that Faculty of Social and Political Sciences Universitas Indonesia can host and organize the CPR lecture series at annual base. Next year, when Vietnam starts chairing ASEAN, we will be delighted to host the 2020 CPR lecture series here. I hope so. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I close, I want to express my gratitude to Permanent Representative of Republic Indonesia, Ambassador Adi Patmo, for facilitating this CPR lecture series at Universitas Indonesia. Ambassador Adi Patmo has frequently been asked for lectures at classes on ASEAN at this faculty. Thank you, Pak Ade. His initiative to bring all 10 ASEAN ambassadors to Faculty of Social and Political Sciences has resulted in this notable program. Yeah, this is indeed, as a Dean of Faculty of Social Political Sciences Universitas Indonesia, on behalf of Universitas Indonesia, I really honored being host for many ASEAN ambassador. This is the opportunity that not all institutions can have this. So thank you again to all of you, especially also to Pak Ade tomorrow. I hope all of you will enjoy this CPR lecture series, having an inspiring lecture and stimulating discussion. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you for the warm welcoming remarks from our Dean. Now we would like to welcome Her Excellency's Ambassador Pasport Sangasubana, Permanent Representative of Thailand to ASEAN, Chair of ASEAN, to come to the stage and give a welcoming remark to open this seminar.
Dr. Arya Budi Susilo, I hope I have that name right, Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Excellencies, ASEAN Member States, Permanent Representative to ASEAN, Executives, lecturers, ladies and gentlemen, selamat sore. Kepada para dosen yang terhormat dan para mahasiswa dan mahasiswi Universitas Indonesia yang kami banggakan. On behalf of the Committee of the Permanent Representatives to ASEAN, I wish to express the gratitude to the University of Indonesia and the Permanent Mission of Indonesia to ASEAN for their high-quality organization and excellent arrangement of the CPR lecture series under the theme 10th Anniversary of Engaging ASEAN through the CPR, Thailand's Chairmanship 2019. On the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the Committee of Permanent Representative to ASEAN, or the CPR, as an entity in the ASEAN Charter, we decided to organize the CPR lecture series to raise awareness to the general public on ASEAN. We have had lecture series in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai in Thailand at the beginning of this year. I can pronounce here that this lecture series here at the University of Indonesia is the first time when we have all 10 ASEAN member states permanent representatives to ASEAN and ASEAN Secretariat present. Each of us has certain expertise and experience that I wish to encourage the students. And I know there are students from ASEAN member states here in this hall, so you are the youth of ASEAN. Please maximize our presence and interact with us while we are here today. At this juncture, I also would like to express appreciation for the UE support of Thailand's Chairmanship. I would like to stimulate your thoughts on Thailand's ASEAN Chairmanship this year, which is guided by the theme Advancing Partnership for Sustainability. It seeks to pursue sustainability in all dimensions through close cooperation and partnership with our friends and international community. Whatever ASEAN seeks to achieve, it must be sustainable to ensure that the benefits of ASEAN community building and ASEAN policies are long-lasting. With this, I will hand over the floor to the experienced ambassadors who will be talking about different aspects of ASEAN. I hope that this lecture will be a stimulating step for you to continue exploring what ASEAN means to you and how you can contribute to a sustainable ASEAN which leaves the one behind. After all, you are the next chapter of ASEAN. Charimanship.
Thank you for the warm welcoming remarks from Her Excellency's Ambassador Pasport Sangasubana. We would like to ask you to stay on stage. The next agenda is introduction of 9 other country permanent representatives. Please come forward as I introduce your excellencies. Her Excellency Ambassador Kasmalati Dato Kasim as permanent representative of Brunei to ASEAN. His Excellency Ambassador Yip Sam Nang as representative of Cambodia to ASEAN. His Excellency Ambassador Ade Patmo Sarwono as permanent representative of Indonesia to ASEAN. His Excellency Ambassador Eka Pantafong as permanent representative of Lao PDR to ASEAN. Her Excellency Ambassador Dato Sharifah Nurhana Syed Mustafa as permanent representative of Malaysia to ASEAN. His Excellency Ambassador Min Lwin as permanent representative of Myanmar to ASEAN. Her Excellency Elizabeth Buen Sukeso as permanent representative of Philippines to ASEAN. Her Excellency Ambassador Kok Lee Peng as permanent representative of Singapore to ASEAN. His Excellency Ambassador Chan Duc Binh as permanent representative of Vietnam to ASEAN. And last but not least, our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Lim Chechen from ASEAN Secretariat. Please give a big round of applause for our 10 country permanent representatives from ASEAN. Now we would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Dr. Ari, to give a token of appreciation to Her Excellency Ambassador Passport Sana Subana as the Chair of CPRs to ASEAN. Now, we would like to invite also Her Excellency Ambassador Passport Sana Subana to give a token of appreciation to the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. Now we would like to proceed to picture sessions. So please give a big smile for the cameras.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
ASEAN.
Thank you to all CPR and the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. You can now go back to your respective seats. It is time for the main event, which is the CPR lecture session. We would like to invite Mr. Rahmat Sharif as our moderator today to come forward and start the lecture. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Rahmat Sharif. Mr. Rahmat Sharif is a lecturer in our International Relations Department and have moderated a lot of notable conferences before. So please welcome.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming all the way here to Depok at the outskirts of Jakarta. I know it's quite far, so we really appreciate you all for coming here. And let me begin. I don't really have a lot of time, but usually when I moderate, I always give a brief introduction. So since we are here in international relations, so of course you all know, let me begin with a very short concept in IR. This is a very basic one. Of course we all know about the anarchy, right? So it basically means that legally, no country is more superior than the other. And while the nature of country is basically always seeking their national interest. So sometimes in order to nurture them, to find out this interest, usually sometimes they create tensions one over the other. Sometimes they make conflict. Sometimes in terms of militarily, they engage even in an open war. So this is actually the situation in ASEAN back in the 1960s. But because of ASEAN, the situation has been changed a lot. ASEAN nowadays is becoming a region of peace and stability. ASEAN has actually created a platform for dialogue, a platform for communication. They created a lot of cooperation. So now the region has been really, really different from it was back in the 1960s. And of course, we all know, all observers about ASEAN, we all know about the so-called deepening and widening agenda. Deepening means that in order to foster the so-called peace and stability, ASEAN engaged in a lot of institutional deepening. For example, back in the 1990s, ASEAN created the ASEAN Free Trade Area. And then in the 2000s, ASEAN has created the ASEAN Economic Community, ASEAN Charter, and the 3 pillars of ASEAN Community. And of course, we all know that ASEAN also created the so-called ASEAN Plus mechanism, the widening concept in which ASEAN actually engaged countries surrounding great powers in East Asia to foster the so-called habits of cooperation and dialogue, not only in Southeast Asia, but also in East Asia. So let me quote one important point from our Indonesian former foreign minister, Martin Natalegawa, and he has just recently published a book, the so-called Does ASEAN Matter? Which is very interesting. In his work, ASEAN has changed from a region of trust deficit, that is back in the 1960s, but now it is becoming a region of strategic trust. So there has been a very different circumstances here now in the region. But what are the key recipes then for the ASEAN success? And then how does ASEAN cope with evolving international external challenges? So that's why in these occasions we discuss these particular issues, and we'll be accompanied by 6 very high-profile ambassadors. So the first speaker will be, I welcome Her Excellency Ambassador Kasmalati Dato' Kasim, Permanent Representative of Brunei Darussalam to ASEAN. Please, you may have this seat on stage, please. Our second speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Yip Samnang, Permanent Representative of Cambodia to the ASEAN. Please. Our third speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Dato' Sharifah Nurhana Syed Mustafa, Permanent Representative of Malaysia to ASEAN. Our fourth speaker, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, His Excellency Ambassador Chan Duc Bit, Permanent Representative of Vietnam to ASEAN. Our fifth speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Kok Lee Pang, Permanent Representative of Singapore to ASEAN. Please join us on stage. And our sixth speaker, Mr. Lim Che Chin, Director, ASEAN Connectivity Division, ASEAN Secretariat. Okay, now I sit among the ambassadors, so this is how it feels. Okay, let us just begin with our first speaker. Please let me remind you respectfully, Ambassador, since we have very short time here, while there are a lot of speakers here, each presenter can speak for around 5 minutes, if that's okay, so that we can have more discussions at the Q&A session. Of course, my duty. Okay, our first speaker will be Her Excellency Ambassador Kasmalati Dato' Kasim. Please, you may start.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Dr. Aris Susilo, Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Excellencies and dear students, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kasmalati Dato' Kasim, a permanent representative of Brunei Darussalam to ASEAN. It is a pleasure for me to be here at the University of Indonesia through our ASEAN CPR lecture series, engage with ASEAN through the CPR representatives. My topic today is the achievements or the successes of ASEAN. While there are countless achievements that ASEAN has harvested since its inception, I shall perhaps only state a few. As stated earlier, this lecture series here at this university is the third of its kind. The first two being in the universities in Thailand, namely in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai. This lecture series was launched in conjunction with the 10th anniversary of the formation of the Committee of Permanent Representatives. Looking at the achievements of ASEAN, I like to think that the formation of the CPR and its entailing terms of references as one of the successes of ASEAN. In his foreword in the CPR handbook, former Secretary General of ASEAN, Le Long, he has stated that with its mandate to monitor and implement the decisions made by ASEAN leaders, strengthen relations with ASEAN's external partners, as well as coordinate cross-pillar matters, in addition to providing administrative and substantive support to the ASEAN Secretariat, the Committee of Permanent Representatives has played a key role in ASEAN's community building efforts. To look at something we can quickly quantify, Article 12 of the ASEAN Charter, amongst other, states that the CPR shall facilitate cooperation with external partners. Since the appointment of permanent representatives of all ASEAN member states to ASEAN to be based here in Jakarta, many non-ASEAN countries had moved to accredit their ambassadors to ASEAN. There are currently 91 non-ASEAN ambassadors accredited to ASEAN, and more countries can be expected to follow suit. 91 countries is 47% of countries in the world today. Perhaps the beauty of the CPR is the ease to which cooperation and dialogue can be organized, made possible by all 10 members of ASEAN being in Jakarta in one place, all at one time, just like what we have here today. Looking back to 1967, when it all started with the Bangkok Declaration, ASEAN then had 5 members. It enlarged along the way, and 32 years later, with the joining of Cambodia in 1999, we expanded to 10 members. Perhaps the greatest achievement is its ability to survive the test of time, to maintain ASEAN's centrality in the face of global economic, political, and social challenges and uncertainties, particularly in and around the region. This August will be the 52nd year of ASEAN's inception. Hence, for more than 50 years, ASEAN had continued steadfast to take the lead in shaping the regional landscape for peace and stability in the region. One of the secret behind this success is ASEAN's determination, persistence, and solidarity to maintain this centrality, supported by consensus decision-making process that we have. As you know, ASEAN will only move with the decision when there is an agreement from all 10 member countries. The consistency ASEAN has shown in adhering to this decision-making process for the last 5 decades had earned great interest from our external partners in pursuing cooperation in the association. Another achievement that I would like to highlight is in its narrowing development gap agenda. ASEAN launched the initiative of ASEAN integration in 2000 with the objectives of narrowing the development gap and accelerating economic integration of 4 of its member countries, namely Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. With the support of ASEAN 6 and ASEAN partners, thus far 3 IAI work plan initiatives have been adopted, the current being the Work Plan 3, 2016 to 2020. Consisting of 5 priority strategic areas, namely food and agriculture, trade facilitation, micro, small and medium enterprises, education, as well as health and well-being. Through this initiative, significant improvements can be seen in the per capita gross domestic product of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, as well as in their trade and investment efforts. Starting from a lower base, the average GDP per capita had consistently increased, reaching $1,940 in 2017. This increase showed an equivalent increase in average per capita GDP of ASEAN from $2,670 in 2009 to $4,308 in 2017. Narrowing the development gap among ASEAN member states is only one of the achievements of ASEAN in economic pillar. Yet this achievement is so crucial because this will ensure the benefits of ASEAN development, cooperation and economic integration are equitably shared by all member states and their citizens. It's up. So I think I shall stop here for now. I will give more time for my other colleagues. Thank you very much.
We still have the Q&A section, so don't worry. And our second speaker, I invite His Excellency Ambassador Yip Samna from Permanent Representative of Cambodia to the ASEAN. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And first of all, I would like to extend my congratulations, warmest congratulations to the University of Indonesia, especially to Dr. Aris for conducting this important event. And it's a great pleasure that I have to be here and to share some experience that we have with ASEAN today. Because the time limited, so maybe I will not talk in detail. I just focus on what that I plan to talk here is about ASEAN diplomacy. As you we are well aware, and also it has mentioned like introductory introduction by Mr. Moderator, ASEAN as now has been recognized as the model of the success of the regional success organization, because we all ASEAN member states have adopted ASEAN approach towards the in the negotiation in even those not only in ASEAN amount but also to engage with all dialogue partners and other regional partners. This is that I would like to reflect with the ASEAN has adopted the first. I think everyone knows that is a consensus building. This is the principle of ASEAN, and we adopted this ASEAN Way. So whatever that we talk, discuss, we has gone through the dialogue and consultation. This is the second that ASEAN diplomacy we have adopted. So the consultation and dialogue, whatever we have sensitive issue or that we always sit together and talk friendly in the meeting, and then we can get the consensus. Another approach is a we can say like non-confrontation approach, because ASEAN always avoid. This is also principle, especially in the TAC, the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of ASEAN member states. So because of this principle, ASEAN avoid the confrontation each other. So based on the consensus building, dialogue and consultation and non-interference, so everyone, before we can reach a consensus and decide whatever that we can accept, so must be to at the comfortable level to all everyone. If any among us, if anyone cannot accept, we will not go. And we have to get everyone comfortable, and then we have to go. This is the principle of ASEAN diplomacy. And the other one that we can see is we can call that like ASEAN collective leadership, because ASEAN also approach the rotation of the chairmanship. And also everyone among them, we have divided labor over to be a coordinator with all dialogue partners. So we are 10 and we have 10 dialogue partners, and then one like Cambodia for now is a country coordinator for ASEAN New Zealand dialogue partner. This we reflect that everyone is equal. So we don't leave anyone behind. And the rotation for the chairmanship, dog alphabetical order, so we cannot escape anyone. Also, ASEAN also has follow-up mechanism and structure, starting from the working group level until the summit. If the working group cannot reach consensus, okay, we can put up to the senior, to the foreign minister, and finally to the summit. Other important ASEAN diplomacy that we adopted also some, this we can say, confidence building measure and preventing diplomacy. This is also that ASEAN try to engage with the other stakeholder. So in the mechanism of ASEAN is not only for the government. We also try to develop other mechanism and forum like Trade 1.5. So this is open for engagement, proactive between the official, the government, with the other stakeholders like academia or business sector. And also we try to engage to promote the activity from the various can say like it's not from the government. We open, we encourage the other entity, other entity can organize some workshop activity and so on. So this is how ASEAN can engage an idea from the other stakeholders, because now we can see ASEAN now is being focused on ASEAN centric and ASEAN oriented, people centric and people oriented. What does it mean, the people oriented and people centric? People centric, it means that every decision making, it must be considered the voice of people, and the decision must be focused on the need of the people. And the last one I would like to say, I'm not so sure whether I introduce this you as of me or not. It's because quiet diplomacy. Because ASEAN we have approach, different approach. Sometimes if we have not yet the consensus, we will not be publish that document on other issue. It must be kept in confidential. So we must be aware which matters have to be publicized and which matter we need to be still confidential until we can reach the consensus. This is the way that ASEAN has approached in, we can say, ASEAN diplomacy. So everyone, and now ASEAN get more success. So in my conclusion, because of such kinds of those approach that I mentioned, so ASEAN have remained as an honor broker and stay neutrality, and we can enhance and strengthen our centrality, ASEAN centrality in front of external partners, especially with the great power and major power. Thank you, the moderator.
Thank you very much. We may proceed with the third speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Dato' Sharifah Nurhana Syed Mustafa from Permanent Representative of Malaysia to ASEAN. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bapak Moderator. Good afternoon, Dr. Ari, Dean of FISIP of Universitas Indonesia, and lecturers, and a shout out to all students who are here with us this afternoon. I'll be briefing on some human rights questions in the ASEAN context, with a quick glance at the history, a discussion on the establishment of the ASEAN human rights instruments, and what the future of ASEAN human rights holds for ASEAN as an institution. During the 26th ASEAN ministerial meeting in Singapore in July 1993, that was a long time ago, the foreign ministers of ASEAN welcomed the Vienna Declaration, which was adopted by consensus at the World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna a month prior to that. ASEAN's collective views on human rights which remain valid and relevant today, were also verbalized in the joint communique of that AMN. The joint communique reaffirmed ASEAN's commitment to and respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms as set out in the Vienna Declaration. The foreign minister stressed, and I quote, that human rights are interrelated and indivisible, comprising civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights, which are of equal importance. These rights should be addressed in a balanced and integrated manner, protected and promoted with due regard for specific cultural, social, economic and political circumstances. The promotion and protection of human rights should not be politicized, unquote. That became a historic milestone for human rights in ASEAN. The foreign ministers of ASEAN seized on the momentum yielded from the adoption of the Vienna Declaration and articulated their own vision for human rights in the region. Among others, they pronounced that freedom, progress, and national stability are promoted by a balance between rights of the individual and those of the community. And more importantly, the foreign ministers of ASEAN agreed that ASEAN is to consider the establishment of an appropriate regional mechanism on human rights, which forms the basis to where we are today vis-a-vis institutionalizing human rights in ASEAN. Now moving forward, that was in 1993, ASEAN established the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, or AICHA, in October 2009. And the Human Rights Declaration, AHRD, was adopted on 11th November 2012. I have directly and indirectly personally been involved with the work of AICHA since 2013, and in my view, the Commission has grown from strength to strength, affecting meaningful changes to ASEAN's community building. In 2013, a special meeting of the AICHA was convened in Hanoi, Vietnam, to address the low implementation of AICHA's priority programs and activities for 2013. And from then, they started to have small number of concept papers, and among them on human rights-based approach to combat trafficking in persons, as well as on the promotion of maternal health and reduction of maternal mortality. Fast forward 5 years after 2013, AICHA's deliberation addresses a wide spectrum of issues, from mainstreaming the rights of persons with disabilities to youth debate on human rights, and from consultations on the right to safe drinking water and sanitation to business and human rights. In another sign of progress, the Commission has also established consultative relations with more than 15 CSOs, and time has proven that engagement with grassroots stakeholders often elevates the value of a conversation, including human rights conversation in the region. No doubt there are rooms for improvements, but I believe AICHA is on the right track in facilitating ASEAN to fulfill its commitment on human rights and fundamental freedoms. On the other hand, since the entry into force of the ASEAN Charter, ASEAN has been emphasizing the need to have a human rights document tailored to the forms, norms and values of its member states. The ASEAN Human Rights Declaration is a clear expression of ASEAN's commitment in addressing issues concerning human rights. Looking ahead, what I think is crucial as ASEAN continues its community building is to ensure an effective promotion and protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms, which enable an ASEAN community that is strong, inclusive, and its people empowered. And we have all this solid foundation laid so far ahead, and it's important that we recognize the challenges that remain. Sure, the conversation we engage on human rights are wide-ranging, with a myriad of issues deliberated by our leaders, policymakers and all that. But, and on the other hand, there is challenges, and on the other hand, it is a reflection of our maturity as a society, as a ASEAN community. And I will stop here since my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. There are a lot of important points here. I really want to ask questions, but later, yeah, in the Q&A. And our fourth speaker, we have Her Excellency Ambassador Kong Lipan, Permanent Representative of Singapore to ASEAN. Please, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Very good afternoon to Dr. Arye Sosilo, Dean of the Faculty, and hello to everybody. Madam Chair, saya belajar sedikit bahasa Indonesia ya, tapi tidak lancar lagi, jadi saya harus gunakan bahasa Inggris ya. I'm very honored to speak here today at the university. I understand this is the oldest university tertiary-level education institute in Indonesia. And not only have you witnessed this country's period of colonialism, you are also now living testament to Indonesia's marvelous evolution post-independence. I chose the topic, what does ASEAN mean for your future? Because I think that is pertinent to you. Also because it's often been said that ASEAN's benefits don't adequately trickle down to the person on the street. And then let me cite a recent study in 2017 by the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, or AREA. This study shows that amongst the different groups who were interviewed, students and youths of 15 to 30 years old, that means you guys, yeah, were the least familiar with ASEAN. So we gotta do something to about that, and I think the CPR lecture series is part of this outreach. As with all government institutions, the work we do is not directly visible to the audience. Part of it is because our work is think of it as tending a garden. Every day we water it, we dig up the soil, little by little plants start to grow. And that really is the work of ASEAN. Another part of it is, well, diplomacy is quiet, and our results are generally kept away from the public eye. So these two factors sort of come together in a slightly unfortunate way. But this is why I hope to provide some concrete examples today on how ASEAN affects your future. Can I just have a quick show of hands on my first topic, the ASEAN Smart Cities Network? Who here comes from the cities of Banyuwangi? Ada? Oh, okay, baik. How about Makassar? Oh, satu. Oh, dua. Okay, thank you. And of course from Jakarta. Okay, alright, great. More on that later. The second topic that's close to my heart is connectivity, both in terms of aviation and security, and it's quite pertinent given the headlines today. Who here has flown before in an airplane? Taken a flight? Okay, CPR cannot. CPR we're disqualified. We cannot take part. Okay. Who would like to fly one day? Try to take a flight one day. Nobody. Alamak. Okay, who is afraid of flying? Siapa takut? Okay, because of the bad news today, right? Okay. Alright, third point, student mobility. Who here has gone on an overseas student exchange program? Oh, excellent. Then, who is looking at getting a scholarship for your S2? Oh, banyak. Okay, good. Alright. Then, since I only have 2 minutes left, I will go straight to my third point, which everybody seems to like. Gimana? Okay, student mobility. Alright. I hope you all know that your university belongs to the ASEAN University Network. This is one of ASEAN's initiatives to help you visit and explore fellow ASEAN countries through short-term student exchanges, research cooperation, or even scholarships. So this applies to ASEAN, also to countries, partner countries such as the EU. Well, EU is a dialogue partner, not a country. The Republic of Korea, South Korea, Tiongkok, dan Japan. Where's your student liaison officer? I think I just gave her him or her a lot of work. Okay. For example, ASEAN and EU have this shared program, support for higher education in ASEAN region. So this scholarship program provided 400 intra-ASEAN and 100 ASEAN-EU scholarships over the past 4 years. So see what options or opportunities there are for you guys. ASEAN does a lot in terms of youth programs and partnerships, because what are we working so hard for if not for you guys, right? After the pemilu, we have Pilihan Raya CPR, yeah? Okay, I know time, but I just gotta say this. For those of you who haven't thought about flying, please do, because it is extremely mind-broadening, and also the aviation industry is extremely lucrative. One study showed, for example, when Singapore and Malaysia opened up air connection between KL and Singapore, the increased competition led to a reduction of ticket prices by more than 80%. Discount 80%. It's mustahil, okay. So the price dropped from about US 180 on average to 30 one ticket in 1 year. Alright, so if you open up connections, people want, the demand is there, the profit is there. Let me give you another statistic. Where is this? Okay. Jakarta is involved in 2 of the world's top 5 busiest international flight routes. The Jakarta-Singapore flight route is the world's 3rd busiest route. There are 27,304 flights. I think a week. I hope it's a week. 1 day is too many. Alright. Then, the other route between Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur is the world's 5th busiest route. This one has 19,849 flights. So think about it, people. Try to grab a share of that pie. Thank you very much. I've exhausted my time.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. For information, last January, our undergraduate program of international relations had a visitation from the ASEAN University Network. So hopefully, we will soon be able, to be part of the ASEAN University Network. And our fifth speaker. I welcome His Excellency Ambassador Chan Duc Binh, Permanent Representative of Vietnam to ASEAN. Please, you may proceed.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. I have 5 minutes, and I try to bring in a different perspective. It's what ASEAN's relations with the outside world, how it is conducted, and mainly what it brings. What benefits that brings to ASEAN, what's the value of ASEAN in these partnerships. So the next slide. Well, skip that. Well, it's very simple. Why? As in the blueprint for 2025, we can see that developing friendly relations and mutually beneficial relations with other countries and partners has been the consistent policy of ASEAN since its inception. So it's there. And then the next slide, you can see how many partners we have from individual countries like China, Australia, New Zealand, US, and the European Union. Those are the 10 full dialogue partners. some of them are strategic partners for ASEAN. For example, Australia, China, India, Japan, and the US, and Korea as well. And we also have some dialogue partners, some countries that have limited forms in specific areas cooperation with ASEAN. For example, you can see Pakistan or Norway, Switzerland, Turkey, and then one different partner, which is Germany. We also have dialogue, relations with regional organizations like SARC, SCO, this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the Pacific Islands, or the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, for example. The next slide. So you can see here, it's to bring in perspective where ASEAN is, where the layers of ASEAN relations, where are those dialogue partners. This will bring you, give you a perspective that you can see that all in all, where, whatever layers, whatever of relations, ASEAN is always at the center of all of this. And and you may want to ask me as to why countries outside the region would like to, forge a partnership with ASEAN through the +1 or +3 or the East Asia Summit, with all other partners, or the ARF, the ASEAN Regional Forum, for example. For simple, I think it's very simple. We have interest, they have interest. We want to, work together to bring benefits to our countries, to our people, and most of all is to bring peace, stability, and security to the region. And the next slide, please. And it's about the levels of engagement. So with all these partners at different levels, we have the summit level meetings, we have ministerial meetings, we have senior officials meeting, and also the CPR, the committee, Committee of Permanent Representatives to ASEAN in Jakarta, serve as the focal point for practical cooperation, overseeing how things are going in terms of relations with individual partners. So, for example, we have with China, Australia, New Zealand, the US, we have a mechanism called the Joint Cooperation Committee, and then we also have the ASEAN +3 Ambassadors Meeting, we also have the East Asia Summit Ambassadors Meeting. Those are very important mechanisms to help monitor and facilitate cooperation of ASEAN with those dialogue partners. And the next slide is about areas. I wouldn't go into that, but we group those areas of cooperation into three, mainly political security, economic, and then other areas as well. Perhaps one point in terms of economic, which is emphasize the important part, which is about the negotiation for the regional comprehensive economic partnership. That's beside all the FTAs that ASEAN has had with all countries like China, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, India, and Japan. So all in all, it's all these partnerships, all these layers of cooperation serve the purpose of bringing peace, bringing prosperity, and living standard, raising the living standard of our people. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And our last speaker for today, Mr. Lim Che Chen, Director, ASEAN Connectivity Division, ASEAN Secretariat. Please, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Pak Rahmat. Thank you, Pak Dr. Ari Susilo, Dean of FISIP UI, Ambassadors, representative of the Committee of Permanent Representative to ASEAN, lecturers and students. Selamat sore. So, this afternoon, what I intend to talk about is on a topic called connectivity. Apa itu konektivitas? Konektivitas di antara negara, di dalam ASEAN, di luar ASEAN, atau konektivitas di dalam negara itself, right? So, so what does connectivity actually mean to all of us? It means different things to different stakeholders, but for us, it is one way, one mechanism to actually strengthen our ASEAN community building effort. So if you can see from this diagram here, you see that ASEAN has 3 community: political, security, economic community, and social cultural community. So we like to see that connectivity provides a way or a foundation to connect the 3 different communities together. So that is through translating different initiatives through a consultative process, through developing specific projects that would matter to all of you. As you have heard earlier, we are envisaging people-centered, people-oriented. What does that really mean? How do you participate in the process? How can you be also contributing and benefiting from this process itself? So in undertaking connectivity, what we have envisaged is through 5 different areas. The commonly known to people, connectivity is about infrastructure. But infrastructure is just one part of connectivity. So connectivity is also about digital innovation, especially in this age. How can you be digitally connected? How can you go digital? How can you benefit from the digital economy? How digital economy should not be more divisive, where those who have become more affluent than those who do not have. And it is also about how we can trade better, how we can invest better through seamless logistics, through institutional cooperation reforms, through regulatory excellence, good practices that will help us, help our region to develop more effectively. It is also about people mobility. I think this is something that will interest you more. Ambassador Kok Wee Peng mentioned a little bit about that. I think in connectivity, we are also working something related to that under our initiative on technical vocational education and training, as well as also higher education exchange. So scholarships is one approach that we're looking at. Faculty exchange is the other way. Train the trainers so that you can train even more people. I think that will be effective. Also look at internship. Also look at field visits. So one of the ways to enable these people mobility is for us to talk to different partners of ours, as highlighted by Ambassador Bin earlier. So we work with our partners, Korea, China, Japan, US, etc., EU, in order to come up programs where we can help to facilitate or mobilize faculty and students within the region, also beyond the region, so that we will be not only learning from the best in the region, but also from around the world. So we hope that that is something that you can be part of the process, participating and eventually contributing to it. So that is what we basically are trying to do. That is what we call connectivity. So we are connecting you with us, and one thing to connect you is ASEAN Secretariat is near Block M, and now we have MRT. Sekarang station MRT ASEAN di sebelah ASEAN Secretariat ASEAN. So bisa kunjungan kalau ada waktu. So with that, terima kasih.
Thank you, Ambassador and Director. And now we proceed to the Q&A session. Please let me remind you that this is a very interesting opportunity. This is the first time in Indonesia in which we have 10 country permanent representative speaking together, to the university students. So please do have a chance to ask questions. They are very distinguished policymakers. So please use the chance. So I will open the first section of Q&A. 3 questions. Okay, the man over there, the lady over there, and the one over there. Yeah. You are the second. So would you mind giving that for the boy over there?
We said ladies first.
Either way, right? It's okay. Okay, you may proceed. Please state your name and your institutions.
Okay, thank you for this precious opportunity. My name is Muhammad Fathaila from the postgraduate program of International Relations, Universitas Indonesia. And I want to ask some questions to the representative of Malaysia because she explained about the human rights. And my question is about the issue of terrorism related on the human rights issue. Well, we know that in March this year, United States claimed that ISIS was totally defeated. And as a result, many of ISIS members, especially that they come from the Southeast Asia countries, they will return to their countries. In the political view, this is very difficult for the countries to accept them because of many or several reasons about security or labeling them as a traitor of the nation. But in the view of human rights, they are still a human being. They have a right to obtain the citizenship. So, what is the response of ASEAN about this issue? Thank you very much.
Okay, the first question happened to be a very difficult one. But this is an academic discussion, so everybody is allowed to speak freely, please, Ambassador. And maybe we can, not responding first, but we can proceed to the second. Yes, please, the lady over there.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Monica from the undergraduate program of International Relations of University of Indonesia. So my question is directed specifically to the representative of Vietnam, Mr. Tran. So my question is that I'm very interested in the very rapid industrial growth of Vietnam. So I think Vietnam is one of the most fast-paced industrial growth I've ever seen in any country. So I just want to ask your opinion on how you view this growth, how this growth will continue for the future, and how it will affect Vietnam's position in Asian, especially Asian economic community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And the third person, please. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Muhammad Yasir, the postgraduate student of International Relations in Universitas Indonesia. My thesis is about ASEAN connectivity, it's a good chance to ask directly to the director of ASEAN connectivity. My question is, in realizing or achieve the goal of the master plan on ASEAN connectivity, there are some priority projects to achieve or to complete in the period of ASEAN connectivity. My question is, does the national interest of the countries still matter or be the top priority above the regional interest of each countries? Because the ambassador said that now ASEAN is trying to focus on the ASEAN-centric, not only the national-centric. Thank you.
Thank you. That's another very question. Does factor interest matter in regional cooperation? Now we come to the answer session, please. And we can also invite answers here from ambassadors who sit on the seat. But please, who wants to answer first? Ambassador, okay, please.
Thank you, Bapak Moderator. This is on the first question that was posed by Mr. Muhammad. His question is the link between terrorism and human rights. That's a very difficult question, actually. And in terms of that human rights, I think that is in the wider sense. But I think the returnees, I think you're talking about the returnees, right? So the individual countries will have to do some kind of rehabilitation program for the returnees so that they can be absorbed back into society. So not so much of a human rights question, but rather a rehabilitation program catered for the returnees. I don't know whether I've answered your question, but perhaps some of my friends, my colleagues, would like to chip in to give more clarity to that. Anyone?
Okay, please.
I think your question touches upon a very difficult question for all ASEAN governments right now. We're still working out a national response to this because there are IS fighters from several of ASEAN member states, but not all ASEAN member states. Within ASEAN, we have very good security cooperation. While we have free flow of people on a visa-free basis through our 10 countries, there are conditions to this visa-free travel. And any returning fighters will definitely not be allowed to travel this way. The borders will be closed for them, not porous. What happens to them within their own borders? That is something that every ASEAN government must decide for itself. At the same time, we are acutely aware that our region is closely geographically and physically connected. Therefore, we're working on practical and feasible ways to monitor and to pick up suspected returning fighters. And then there are various processes to make sure that the right fighter goes to the right country, and thereafter the national government takes over. I think for all of the IR students here, please bear in mind that ASEAN is really an interesting entity. We are a regional grouping made of national governments. So we always constantly have to balance regional interests with national interests. Of course, national interests have a slight edge, but at the same time, our region cannot continue to forge ahead if the 10 of us hang separately. So there must be a realization and an understanding of what ASEAN is about and how it can further all of our collective national interests. I did answer the question, but I hope it gives you a better context.
Okay, thank you. And who wants to answer again? Ambassador Adepatmo, you want to add something?
Thank you. Actually, most of them already answered by Ambassador Sarifah and Depok. First, of course, we have to identify because most of them when they're going to Syria, they're not going in the proper channel. So sometimes you have to first identify, as Ambassador Depok mentioned, from which country they are. You know, because then they use sometimes illegal how to enter Syria, and when they return, of course, as human rights, every people have right to have citizenship. So they have, of course, we respect. If they are from Indonesia, they have the right that there's an Indonesian citizen. But then when they enter going back to Indonesia, certainly, as Ambassador Sarifah mentioned, they have to go through some rehabilitation process, the relaxation process, and of course we have to monitor how whether they already can be integrated back to the society. So I think both question is already both already answered, and then this is basically we affirm that every people has the right to have citizenship. This is one basic of human rights.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yeah, please, Ambassador. Somebody please give the mic, please.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question, and what I'm going to say is maybe tangential. It doesn't address the question directly, but it's related to the question. In addition to what has already been enunciated or elucidated by the ambassadors, what ASEAN is doing is the prevention of radicalization. And this, ASEAN is doing it very vigorously in almost every forum. We have ASEAN IPR. Have you heard of IPAR? ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation. And we have undertaken a lot of activities to identify various modes of cooperation among ASEAN and our dialogue partners on the prevention of radicalization, and also the role of women, mothers, sisters, aunties. In the prevention of radicalization, there have been a lot of activities on this. In 2017, when the Philippines was chair of ASEAN, we issued an EAS declaration on foreign terrorist fighters. What do we do? But it's more on the prevention side, because really the return is, as elucidated by my colleagues, is really an individual national response, because our systems are different. But there is a lot that we are doing to prevent them from going there in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. We still have questions directed to Director Philip and okay, Ambassador Chan Dumbit first.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the question. I think it's quite interesting, and I would my short answer to you is that as the Vietnamese economy grows, we will will always be part of the ASEAN economic community as well as the all pillars of political security and also social cultural community pillars of ASEAN, and we will contribute to that. So you may ask me why. It's very simple. I give you back 24 years ago when Vietnam first joined ASEAN in 1995. The economy was at a very low level, slowly picking up. Then, to 1996, we joined the common effective preferential tariffs, and which is the basis for the free trade area, ASEAN free trade area. We joined 1 year after that, and ever since the Vietnamese economy grows. So what I'm trying to say is that being part of the ASEAN economic community from the very beginning gives us confidence, gives the economies, a boost to grow, and I would say that we will be part of that, and I could say that we could serve, or we could give an example of how economic integration into the region has helped one economy to grow over the years. Thank you.
The last one, maybe Director Lim.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the question. Of course, I think as alluded earlier, there will always be regional interests, national interests, and you also will have sub-national interests and so on. So basically what is important for us is we look at what are the regional priorities arising from those interests and what are the national priorities, and we try to synergize them through effective projects or through constant dialogue and discussion. So, in this context, I guess striking that balance is important. And how do you strike that balance? You probably need to undertake some assessment of benefits. Of course, there's always cost, and cost often comes first before benefits. And how do you assess that benefit? Is it benefit within national boundaries or benefits beyond the region? And how do you look at it, whether it's intertemporal or it's only at a particular time frame or a particular current situation? So I think all those assessment of benefits and costs will be particularly important to actually engage the stakeholder. And also it is also important to engage those stakeholders as early as possible so that they would actually be part of that process before we make a certain decision. So if I can use an example, let's say if we build infrastructure, so country A wants to build infrastructure that goes to a border, but that border, once you cross that border, the benefits of that infrastructure project becomes larger. So then you have another country B wants to build infrastructure also to your border, for example, then where do they connect? So if you build infrastructure without consulting the neighboring country, without connecting the infrastructure projects, then at the end of the day, the benefits will be much lesser than how you envisage. So, so in that sense, I guess the synergizing part came about, the dialogue part came about, the benefits, study of benefits come about, and the early engagement will be particularly important. So I hope that addresses some of the concerns that you have raised. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador, maybe you want to add something? It's okay? Okay, no problem. Okay, now we proceed to the...
I think he also asked about the priority areas of cooperation.
The priority areas of cooperation.
So I think priority cooperation basically, I mentioned earlier, there are 5 basically areas: sustainable infrastructure, digital innovation, seamless logistics, regulatory excellence, and people mobility. So those areas are translated more specifically to 15 different initiatives. So the initiatives is about building an infrastructure pipeline for the region, how we can get better productivity out of existing infrastructure and new infrastructure, how we can create sustainable urbanization, how we can have more micro, small, medium enterprises participate in the digital economy, financial inclusion, open data, digital data governance, how we can make trade cross-border more effectively, how we can address some of the non-tariff measures which serves as barriers, how we can facilitate flow of tourists through either having a more proactive approach towards tourism, and also to look at how we can actually get easing of visa relaxation for stakeholders. Very often we hear university talking to each other saying, oh, we already agreed, but our students cannot cross over because visa not approved. So that's something that perhaps needs to be addressed. And then we have the earlier one that I talked about, which is technical vocational education and training, as well as higher education exchange, where we look at faculty exchange, scholarships, internships, and also field visits. I hope that gives you a sense, a very quick fire sense of the specific projects that we intend to undertake for connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. We still have quite plenty of time, so I'm about to open the second Q&A sessions. Okay, the man over here, the man at the back sides, and please give for the lady at the back side, for the third one. Over here first, yeah, the man up front, yeah, here's the first one. Yeah.
Thank you, my name is Andre. Andre in Jakarta. Still some time to listen to your lecture. Ambassador, sorry, Malaysia?
Ambassador Sharifah.
Yeah. Human rights. Yeah, really interesting and really relevant. Actually, if the previous question about terrorism, I want to ask about, what happened in Myanmar, right? The Rohingya. It's very sad and very, very painful what happened to people there. And as far as I know, I'm reading one of the best newspaper in Indonesia. Almost this last 1 year, 2 years, there is no news about ASEAN there. Indonesia, take some responsibility. What Indonesia do some jobs there, but ASEAN, even United States, I guess, very concerned about that. But with all your explanation, what of concrete action to ASEAN do? I don't know, interfere or take some responsibilities, because it's in one of our region, right? And we as Indonesian really painful to see what happened to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Andre, and your institution is, excuse me, Andre, your institution is?
Working in logistics. Yeah. Worker in logistics.
Worker in logistics, okay, thank you. Okay, that's quite a difficult question. So let's look forward for the answer. And for the second person, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Majid. I come from undergraduate student of International Relations, FISIP Universitas Indonesia. As we know, ASEAN has already started its ASEAN community from 2015, which has come from ASEAN Political Social Community, ASEAN Economic Community, and ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. But I think in more critical way, I think what is ASEAN thought about the environmental sustainability, which is, as we know, in ASEAN we are come from the tropical landscape and we have many problems from deforestation into the climate change, and to ensure our growth will be sustained to the future. So what is the concern about this particular issue, especially with the SDGs that come from the United Nations? Thank you very much.
Okay, the question is about ASEAN response to environmental sustainability and SDGs. Thank you. And the third speaker is Putih, the girl over there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I working on my thesis about ASEAN role on combating small arms and light weapon in Southeast Asia. So I would like to ask to the permanent representative of Cambodia. As we know, in the past, there are so many conflicts in Southeast Asia, and that conflict inherit hundreds of small arms and light weapons. And there is so many effort to manage the illegal circulation of small arms and light weapons. And ASEAN also have the ASEAN ministerial meeting on transnational crime, and also have ASEAN plan of combating transnational crime to resolving these small arms and light weapon illegal circulation. So I would like to ask, how far is the ASEAN commitment to resolving the small arms and light weapon illegal circulation? And I would also like to ask, why is ASEAN insist to put these small arms and light weapon resolving effort in the framework of transnational crime? Because in 2000, ASEAN also held the Jakarta Seminar of Illicit Trafficking in Small Arms and Light Weapons, which also showing that ASEAN concerned this issue is actually having a big threat to the region. But why ASEAN insists to keep this issue in the framework of transnational crime, which is also including a lot of aspects of transnational crimes? Thank you.
Okay, Putih, your question is directed specifically to?
Our permanent representative of Cambodia, but also to others.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Okay, if I may paraphrase a little bit all the three questions. So maybe it is related to the general academics discussions about ASEAN in which they somehow critically claim that ASEAN is no more than a talk shop. That's the words that they use. ASEAN speaks a lot, ASEAN discuss a lot, engaging in a lot of forum meetings, but no concrete result. That's what they claim. But is it really the case? So maybe we need some more clarification from our ambassadors here. Yeah. Who wants to start first answering? Okay, please.
Thank you, Bapak Moderator. This is on Bapak Andres' question on human rights in Myanmar, or rather the absence of ASEAN's efforts in the Rakhine State. I don't think this is really correct, because ASEAN is doing a lot, especially now, in helping out the situation in the Rakhine State, especially in terms of humanitarian assistance and also on the repatriation aspect. But I think the best person to answer this question is Ambassador Min Win, the permanent representative of Myanmar himself. Ambassador Min Win, thank you.
Thank you, Sharifa, for referring to me. Thank you, Honorable Dean. And you are right that this is the first time that all 10 ambassadors to ASEAN are here in your very university. We have had this kind of lectures or outreach before, but not all 10. This is the first time in my experience here of 7 years in Jakarta. And also, students may think that why these look younger ambassadors are doing their job and look older guys are sitting comfortably here. Actually, we have had our job done in the previous lectures, and we just gave a chance to them. Otherwise, their talents are not known. So the presentations of them within squeezed 5 minutes are perfect. Congratulations, guys. But thank you for the questions. This is at least 3-hour question to answer. If you talk about Rohingya, and actually from the name, I, as a permanent representative to Myanmar, has to correct it. So Rohingya, it comes from Rakhine State. The Rakhine is a place of this Rakhine indigenous group. These people, those people you refer to, Rohingya, is from this Bengal area. I do not wish to say from Bangladesh, I do not wish to say Bangladeshi, but this Bengali. Bengali is the creature or people from Bay of Bengal area. So these peoples are from that area, and they were seasonal workers during British colonial time. Then they remain there and they grow. Now it's about 1 million in the northern Rakhine State. They call Rohingya themselves. Rohin come from Rakhine. In their language, Rahang. Ja means indigenous. That means they call themselves as indigenous people from Rakhine, that the native Rakhine indigenous people never accept. This is the name, with regard to the name. But on ASEAN is doing nothing. First, I want to explain about how Myanmar and Bangladesh government bilaterally work on the repatriation issue. from our side, we are ready, of course, to receive them since last year. But on the other side, do not wish to send them back due to many reasons. There are hidden agendas behind. As I mentioned, 3-hour questions. But I'd like to touch only on what ASEAN is doing now. Of course, Indonesia is helping, receiving them. Malaysia is helping them on bilateral arrangement. And at the last 33rd ASEAN Summit, the leaders made decision that ASEAN Secretariat, together with us, AHA Center, to go and see to the field for need assessments when the people return. So they have done once, and they will have comprehensive need assessment very soon. And after that, we are ready. ASEAN leaders agree. In the meantime, not only ASEAN member states, but also dialogue partners, they assist Myanmar and also Bangladesh bilaterally. But one may think that ASEAN is not doing enough. It might be considered as ASEAN, why don't you give pressure to Myanmar to receive them? This is the questions that we continue. But as the principle of ASEAN diplomacy, we don't interfere the internal affairs of each other. So we quietly support and assist one member states of ASEAN when it comes into crisis. I just wish to stop here.
But just now that we say, pursue peace and stability.
Okay. Do you want to respond? But only very short and concise because we have time limitation.
What is your question again?
Which they get the t-shirts. One of the answers is pursue peace and stability. ASEAN.
Yes, actually, if you look at only to Myanmar, I do not want to mention of other ASEAN member states. The area that you mentioned, the northern Rakhine state, is not the only part in Myanmar that fightings are going on. We have since gaining independence, Chin State, Kachin State, Kayin State, Shan State, there is still a lot of fightings going on. We are trying to have peace and reconciliations with that. With this current government, we work very hard, and if I may, we can see some lights end of the tunnel. But this particular area, compared to those I mentioned, is nothing for us. So please keep in mind that this area, this problem or issue is not a threat to our region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. We still have two other questions. First one on environmental sustainability, and the second one about small arms and light weapons. Who wants to answer first? Yeah, please, Ambassador.
Thank you for the question. ASEAN has been pursuing its efforts regarding environment issues a long time ago, and especially when we're having the integration of ASEAN community. But unfortunately, ASEAN is very poor in translating the vision or the efforts made to the people on the ground. So people may not understand or may not know what we are doing. On environment issues, is very wide and is cross-cutting global issue. For Thailand Chairmanship this year, I will concentrate on maritime, environmental maritime issue because it's quite close to Indonesia. As you know that Thailand's Chairmanship this year is advancing partnership for sustainability. Advancing is what? Advancing means future-oriented. And partnership means being engaged with all stakeholders, whether it's within ASEAN, it's people on the ground, and with dialogue partners. And the sustainability is continuation. So on maritime environment issue, this year we have the special ASEAN ministerial meeting on marine debris, which is this area is the effort, it needs the collective effort of all ASEAN member states, because this is our sea, and we need to protect our sea and our environment for the next generation like yourself. So this is what we are doing now. And as for the next deliverables for Thailand Chairmanship is to enhance the capacity of ASEAN member states to establish the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue. And this center will be launched this year at the end of the year. This center is focused on researches, and environment will be part of that, because we need to have sustainable environment for the region. And the last one is that we would like to monitor the progress of implementation of ASEAN Transboundary Peace-Free Roadmap. This affects all of us, Indonesia, Thailand, and all. So please don't say that ASEAN hasn't done anything. We have done so, but as I indicated, we are so poor in translating, in putting into the layman's word on what we do. Please monitor us. Please watch us very closely. You are the young generation. You are the next chapter of ASEAN, as I have indicated. So please help us, help all of us ambassadors here to move your concern and to help us to implement what we are envisaged regarding environment issue here in the region.
Ambassador.
Thank you for the question, and with regard about this ASEAN efforts, ASEAN commitment to address the issue of the small arm and light people. Thank you that this question addressed directly to me. Yes, because this issue, if we see in Southeast Asia, including some ASEAN member states, also some produce small arm and light weapon. This is the defect that we have to recognize, and so that we see the need to be strengthened further, especially with regard to the coordination among the ASEAN member states in the policy matter, and also in order to address some like illicit arms activity, and also with regard to state control on the using of the small arm and light weapon in Thailand. So the issue in ASEAN effort is also falling under this. You are correctly that you mentioned is under the AMMTC, is ASEAN ministerial meeting on transnational crime, because why ASEAN tend to take issue under the transnational crime, because this issue is you can see at the UN, we have a conference, the convention with regard to small arm and light weapon is also under the traditional crime cooperation. So with regard to address this issue, that's why ASEAN set up this mechanism. It's not only at the ministerial level, and also they have some TC also looking this matter. And somehow also we can be, so far we also will get the support, the funding support from our dialogue partner like EU, China. They support to conduct activities, some seminar and workshop, something with regard to control and about the policy matter. So far, what that ASEAN has committed is the person is try to cooperate on the law enforcement. So they conduct a training workshop and also on the sharing information. It is important that each ASEAN member state work hard closely to share any security matter issue, especially at the cross-border checkpoint. And the other activities also, we have also a program of action with regard the control of small arms and live weapons. And also we have a program of, like as I mentioned, is information exchange, legal enforcement agency, training, and also the capacity building. So all as member states always sit, talk together, strengthen the capacity building. So this is that ASEAN has done so far. I hope if you can clarify your further.
I'm so sorry, the time is almost up, and we still have one last remark from Ambassador Adebapo, please.
Thank you. I want to answer just the question about small and illicit weapon. I just to add that not only the SOMTC, but also IMF, the ASEAN Regional Forum, which consists of other countries outside ASEAN, because the issue is not only ASEAN, because it's also related to other, as mentioned, related United Nations global issue. In fact, the producer is part of ASEAN Regional Forum, mostly US and Russia is the producer of small and illicit weapons, and we are just a market. But I just want to give, I'm very happy and very encouraged with all the questions that are being raised, because it's sure you follow the development of ASEAN and you have a critical thinking about ASEAN. But nevertheless, I think you have also to understand how we come up with the original why we developed, established ASEAN. You have to remember that we are coming from many different backgrounds in terms of not language, ethnic group, religion. We are very diverse, and that's why we always hold the principle first, the consensus and non-interference. And mostly of us is a new country. We are mostly 70 years old. While if you compare to other European, we've been already 100 years. So you have to understand how we work on this. And as Samdar mentioned, we approach our when there's issue, for example, about the Rakhine. We're not using a megaphone diplomacy. We have better quiet diplomacy. We aim is rather the better solution, rather than we say many things publicly that create unconducive situation, you know. And what we are doing, ASEAN actually has doing. We always discuss whatever in certain issue in certain country. Of course, we discuss it not too formal, you know, during working dinner or lunch, because you like family. If you are in a family at home with your parents, your father or mother, your father and mother will ask you what you do, why are you doing like this, but not scolding or what, but with dialogue, with discussion. And there's as a young, you probably if you been scolded by your father or mother, you will be probably immediately resistant, try to argument. But if you talk dialogue with the conducive environment, you listen and each other listen to each other, so we can come up with one better solution. So this is ASEAN. I'm happy with your sharp and critical thinking, and I agree with Ambassador Passport. Please contribute, please inform us what you're thinking, and probably we can deliver it. But of course, the way how we deliver it, not immediately, is always gradual, because we use a topic discussion. Let's make ASEAN for 50 years, we can create this region, peace and stability. Look, the outcome like Vietnam, now it's become economic growth is better than Indonesia. So this show how we work, and later on probably then Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, it will be economically developed. So we have a strong region, and in fact in 2030 we are become the fifth biggest economic in the region. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry the time is up, so I'm not going to open the third Q&A sessions. So let me conclude here. We have touched a lot of ASEAN's issues here, from the human rights to the issues of environmental sustainability to small and arms-like weapons. So I hope it will be a very stimulating discussions for all of you. I believe you still have a lot of questions, but please do learn, continue learning, because ASEAN is like still a very never-ending process. Okay. For the last one, please give a big round of applause to all of our listeners. Thank you very much for coming here, and we do hope that next year we will still be the host for another country permanent representative seminar. Thank you very much. That's pretty much wrap up the discussion. See you later, and bye-bye. Yeah, please take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of our lecture session. Thank you, Mr. Rahmat Sharif, as the moderator, our distinguished speakers today, for the fruitful lecture sessions, and also for your active participation in asking great and also critical questions. Please give a big round of applause once again for everyone here. To close this event, we would like to invite Mrs. Effie Fitriani as Program Director to deliver closing remarks. Mrs. Effie Fitriani, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, fellow scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen, a very good late afternoon for all of you. I'm pleased that this CPR lecture series has undertaken very well, and from the question and the discussion we can observe that the interest of students to know more about ASEAN and the enthusiasm of the CPR the ambassador from ASEAN to share their experience and knowledge on ASEAN has been so tremendous. So I would like to thank all of you to have this, to make this lecture series a successful one. And for us at the university, this visit by 10 ambassadors from ASEAN is very remarkable. Thank you very much to visit our university. My students, we do have class on ASEAN. It is a compulsory in this university international relations department. So with this interaction, direct interaction with the high-level official and decision makers from ASEAN, make our class very relevant, and as you can see, the interest of my students range from the human rights, environment, economic development, small arms, and also connectivity. And don't forget also, a lot of them still have a lot of questions actually, but since the time is up, so we have to finish here. So I would like to appeal to the ambassadors next year under Vietnam presidency, Vietnam chairmanship, we would like to welcome all of you to our campus, and I do believe that my student and I, and my boss, Dean, will also welcome all of you. And thank you very much. Have a safe good day to Jakarta, and we would like to welcome anytime you can to our campus. Thank you very much for all the students. Thank you very much, Claudia, for your questions.
Since Ambassador Adipatro Sarwono is alumni of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, and thank you for being so kind to facilitate this event, I would like to give you a t-shirt, just t-shirt of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, especially this t-shirt looking much by students. So I invite Christella Fenisanti to give this t-shirt to Pak Ambassador Adipatro.